Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Hello, illustrious guest. That's from something. I swear to God, that's from something. Illustrious guests. Anyways, we do have at least one illustrious guest here with us this afternoon.
We do indeed. Welcome back to the show, Henrique Jaime.
Colton Brown, Andrew Meadows, how y'all doing?
I'm doing well. How about you, Henry?
Pretty good. I'm ready to talk about a couple of shows today.
That's right. We're talking two shows from the Marvel Netflix universe on this episode. We are talking The Heroes for Hire, Luke Cage Season 2, and Iron Fist Season 2. Just a quick note, we're actually recording two episodes at once right now. We're also going to be talking about Daredevil Season 3, but that is going to be released as a separate episode. I'm hoping that the episodes will be edited in a way that our listeners wouldn't have been able to tell that they were recorded together, but that might be overly optimistic, so I'm just putting that bit of knowledge out there. Anyway, it should be two good episodes. I think I can say on everyone's behalf that we are very excited to talk some Marvel and Netflix. Now, before we get going in earnest, I did want to quickly shout out that our horror-focused bonus episode is up on Patreon exclusively. So all of our supporters have had access to that since Halloween. We greatly encourage you to listen to it if you are a supporter on Patreon. And if you are not, we encourage you to support us on Patreon by heading to watchreviewrepeat.com, clicking the premium tab, and then clicking the Become a Patron button. And that episode, for clarification, is on 4 horror movies from 4 different countries, spanning many decades. So it's Suspiria from 1977, timely given that the new one, I think, is out in limited release. And also Audition, and The Wailing, and It Comes at Night.
That was a fun episode. I like that one.
We are past the Halloween season, unfortunately, so it's a little less timely, but 4 movies I think were interesting for Andrew and I to experience because they were new to us, and we were really feeling the horror mood, and they definitely kind of scratched that itch, I would say. So if you're interested, check that out. Andrew.
Yeah, man.
What fun fact do you have for our listeners this week?
So our fun fact for this afternoon is going to tie back into Marvel Netflix shows. And it's kind of based on fact, but it's not really a fact. It's kind of more speculation.
Would you call it fake news?
Call it fake news. It seems to be an acceptable term. Alternative facts, if you will. I like that. I prefer that term.
Very good. Can't wait to hear what this is.
All right. So, I don't have the original source on this, but I guess...
Well, who needs a source in this day and age? So, come on.
It's true. I'm currently getting it from CBR.com.
Just say Facebook. If it's on Facebook, it must be true.
That's true. Anyways, it says
and a Facebook meme, by the way.
Facebook memes. Those are prime
This is from
news.
a Facebook meme. So, yes, I'm sorry. Please continue.
Now, it says that Season 3 of Daredevil saw a decrease of 57% in viewership. And this is not based on actually Netflix released. It's not Netflix released data because they don't release that. It's actually it's coming from a San Francisco based analytic company called JumpShot, and it is the data is based off of measuring 5 billion actions daily across 100 million streaming devices. Now we do know that Luke Cage and Iron Fist have both been canceled after their second season. Luke Cage saw according to their data, Luke Cage saw a 59% decrease in viewership between its first and second seasons, and Iron Fist saw a decline of 64% of its first week viewers. So I guess the people that needed to watch Iron Fist, they watched it, and 64% of those people just dumped out, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, it's not looking good for the Netflix shows. Well, according to these analytics.
So Daredevil was the lowest percentage of those figures, but they're still, I'd say, probably within a range that, assuming these facts to be true, then it kind of puts it in perilous territory.
Yeah, So it's an alternative fact, but we do know that 2 of those shows were canceled. So.
Well, yep, that is
true.
an actual fact. 2 of these shows have been canceled, and it is also an actual fact that as of recording this on the 5th of November, remember the 5th of November, Daredevil season 3, or I should say Daredevil, the show, has not been canceled as of now. So, I've got a bookcase made of wood. I'm going to go ahead and knock on it. Hope our listeners heard that, and we'll see what happens. Come back next week, and hopefully we'll have good news on that front. So, yeah. We'll get into, I think, maybe... I think talking about maybe where things go from here in terms of Marvel and Netflix, I think we could probably table that discussion until maybe after we talk about the shows. That way we can have some more context to kind of that conversation. So yeah, we'll get into it in a little bit. Let's get into some news right now. Andrew, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I know you've got some kind of video game adaptation type news lined up, right?
Yeah, I do. In no particular order, because I'm not quite sure the order that they all came out in. But the first one that I was really excited about was Castlevania got renewed for season 3.
So Netflix is not canceling everything.
Yeah, they're not going out of business and canceling all their shit.
Which, to be fair, Castlevania probably a little cheaper to make than the Marvel Netflix shows, but alas.
It's true. This is coming from Deadline, and apparently Netflix has ordered another 10 episodes for a 3rd season.
Oh, it's got an increased episode order.
That's true. It was only, I think the last season was 8, wasn't it?
I think so. So 4 to 8 to 10. So
yeah, that's what it's looking like. And I don't know. It's a pretty stellar freaking cartoon. Yeah, I'm stoked. That's the first news.
Good news. I've seen the first season, so I would say based on that alone, then yeah, I'm on board with that. And it's good that Netflix isn't canceling everything, as I've said. So yes.
Henry, have you seen Castlevania season 1 and 2?
I have not seen season 1 or 2 yet, but it's
Lord have mercy. Get on that train, sir.
It's on my list of things to watch, and I'm making progress on that list. So
Well, what I can tell you is that apparently, this is my second bit of news. I'm going to segue hard here.
Okay.
Oh, love it.
Apparently, Castlevania is so incredible.
Oh yeah.
That the showrunner, I guess the executive producer of that show, his name is Adi Shankar. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, that was pretty
Sounds
good.
right. Seems right.
Okay. He is in talks. This is coming from the Wrap. And he is in talks to produce a Legend of Zelda TV series.
Ah, damn.
Yeah. And if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what else could get you excited. That guy's got some chops, though. He's pretty. I think he did. Didn't he produce Dread?
He did. You're correct.
Yeah, he produced Dread. He's got Castlevania. He's got some other shit too. But if you got one guy that produces Zelda, Dread, and fucking Castlevania, it's impressive.
It's a solid resume.
Yeah,
solid.
Absolutely. And then to continue my video game themed news for the week, we got our first look at Netflix, and all of this I think is probably Netflix as well, isn't it?
Potentially. I don't know that there's a network attached to what the Zelda series would be on.
That's true.
But,
that's true.
I mean, we can. It'll probably be Netflix, realistically.
Because why not? Anyways, the third bit of news here, we got the first look at Netflix's The Witcher, starring Henry Cavill as Geralt.
Geralt of Rivia.
Yes, and well, he's missing the scar, which I guess is because it's a prequel.
Well, I mean, it depends on
maybe he acquires
how you
the scar.
Frame it, because my understanding is that this is an adaptation of the books, which are technically prequels to the games. So, I think that yes, in a sense of the word, it is a prequel, but I think it's probably better looked at as separate from the games, even though obviously that's, I would say, like 98% of how people know the franchise of The Witcher is through the games.
Right.
Yeah, I think this is, and I think that, I don't know the showrunner's name off the top of my head, but I think it's a woman. I think she's talked about how it's kind of, what she's trying to do is create something that's more in line with the words of the books instead of kind of what the games did, which the games are pretty respectful, I think, of the source material, but they kind of, the story direction is all kind of written for the games and stuff like that. So
I gotcha. What'd you think about the footage?
Yeah, I think it looks kind of bad. So, I mean, basically, I find it kind of odd that they decided to release this. I mean, it's basically a makeup test. I think they put it on like the socials, Twitter, and all that good stuff, but it's not really like a proper look at the series. It's not a teaser. It's not a trailer or anything like that. I just find it kind of odd that they would put something like this out. Like, again, I kind of get it. The people really, really like this series because of the games, and so it kind of makes sense to show people that, hey, like, this is coming, but I feel like as a first impression, it didn't really work for me, and I think that's kind of like the lighting conditions were kind of wonky, and it kind of just kind of, to me, it just kind of looked like Henry Cavill in a wig, which, it is, but still.
I mean, I don't know. Looks totally fine. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and again, it's a makeup test, so I think that maybe if you put this into proper lighting conditions and, in an environment that would actually would make sense to kind of see him, whatever the medieval type environment would look like for the show, then yeah, I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with the design of this. I'm still pretty happy with the casting in general. So I just find it kind of weird as like a first impression. It wasn't something that really landed all that well with me. Whereas again, with the casting, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely on board with this. But I don't know, Henry, would you like to weigh in as a third party here? Maybe swing the decision one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played the games, but I'm familiar with them. Just on a superficial level, and I was like, he looks interesting. I was like, maybe this is like how he would look like if you adapted the video game character. But I kind of like the bearded look more, and I feel like he might be better suited with some facial hair. Yeah.
If there's any one time that Henry Cavill should actually have facial hair while he's filming a role, I think this would be the one. But I saw somewhere online that apparently Geralt in the books is clean shaven pretty much all the time. I think there was like a quote about him actually hating having a beard. So I suppose that it's in line with the character from the books. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's all I got for news, guys.
Well, that's pretty cool. Nice little thematic tie-in there with all the video game related stuff. I'm excited about the Zelda show. I think that could be interesting. I think just as a follow-on to that, while it's on my mind, I think that Adi Shankar had something on his Instagram saying that there was going to be like a full announcement later this month. So
yeah,
maybe we might get more details. Maybe it'll be deconfirmed as like a Zelda show or something like that. But I think he said he was working with Nintendo, and I mean, again, if it's on the internet, it's got to be true. So
I got it from a meme.
Yeah,
I mean, no one would possibly lie to us or get things wrong. So yeah, well, Henry, do you want to talk about your news? Would you like me to go first? What do you want to do?
I can talk about something because this is definitely not fake, because I got a call from Kevin Feige last week.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Your check must have came in, huh?
He was just making sure your address was still correct for the checks to keep coming in correct.
Exactly. Then I was just talking, and I was asking him, I'm like, hey, can you, I know you're super secretive about the movies, but what's going on with these new shows and the streaming service? And I guess it's not breaking news because Variety talked about it already, but
it wasn't exclusive.
Well, to be fair,
it's no longer exclusive.
We heard it first. It's just we didn't have the opportunity to record about it until after the news was leaked to other sources.
That's it.
So
they're exclusive because they wrote it first, but you didn't hear it first.
We're not in written media, all right? That's not what we're about. We like to drink beer. We like to talk about Marvel. We like to get paychecks for it. I mean, what's wrong with that? What's so wrong with that, huh?
Nothing. But anyways, he was telling me that a couple of Marvel heroes from the Avengers and the Captain America movies might be getting their own show on this new streaming service, with both Falcon and the Winter Soldier might be teaming up for a series, and I'll talk about some of the other ones that they've already announced, but this would be a new one with the two characters that are very close to Captain America and have been Captain America in the comics too. So I think this could be a very interesting take on it.
Right, yeah, it's the two characters that are probably most primed to potentially take over the Captain America mantle should a unfortunate fate befall our captain in Avengers 4. Yeah, it's really exciting news. I'm pretty excited to hear about that. They have a pretty fun dynamic in both the Winter Soldier and Civil War, I guess. They play off each other pretty well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those two team up and like just the whole idea again behind these limited series that they're going to do for the Disney streaming service is actually it's really awesome because I know we talked about it, but I don't know if we kind of clearly distinguished why these are so cool. I would argue is that it's Marvel Studios actually being hands-on with these shows. It's not Marvel Television, who we're talking about basically for most of this episode, but there's a clear distinction between like Marvel Studios and Marvel Television. It's why basically Daredevil and company don't ever get to play with the big boys, the Iron Mans, the Captain Americas, same thing with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., kind of relegated to its separate-ish universe. I mean, hashtag it's all connected and whatever, but really it's kind of a one-way street. And this definitely seems like something that is not that at all. I mean, I know with the Scarlet Witch show, for example, I think that whatever the original source was talked about how Lizzie Olsen was, supposed to reprise her role in it, and the Loki show, Tom Hiddleston's supposed to come back. So I would think that assuming this show happens as it's being reported to, we can expect that Mackie and Sebastian Stan will be back. And
I tell you what you can definitely expect is one hell of a budget for all of these shows.
Well, I think that I almost kind of think they might just be many movies. Like, because, I mean,
kind of, yeah.
Some of these characters, Falcon's got to have some flying sequences, right? I mean, that's not going to be cheap.
No.
Winter Soldier, you can get away with mostly a practical arm, but there's still CG touch-ups that they always do. I mean, and that's the thing, too, is, taking Coulson from the big screen to the small screen is pretty okay. He's just a regular S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, but taking some of these larger-than-life characters, especially Scarlet Witch,
absolutely.
A lot of effects work that would be required to be able to accomplish something like that. Even a 6-episode, 8-episode kind of thing. I would think that those are going to be demanding some serious movie-type budgets. So, yeah.
They're not fucking around, man. But, in order to take on someone like Netflix, like the established series, I mean, you have to have a justification. You know what I mean? You have to have some meaty shit in order to get people to subscribe. Because I imagine that all the Star Trek one. Which one is that on CBS? Is that right?
Yeah, CBS All Access.
Yeah, I imagine the viewership of those streaming services is not very impressive.
It's probably pretty high among Trekkies.
Yeah, I suppose there's probably a lot of those. So maybe I'm just talking out my ass. Alternative facts tend to be my theme for this week.
Yeah, it's a theme.
Yeah, but yeah, it's pretty exciting. I'll tell you that. I'm pretty stoked, man.
Yeah, and he was saying, we've covered Infinity War, so I assume.
The spoilers are fair game at this point. Yeah. Come on, guys.
Yeah, be a part of the human race. But
good callback.
Yeah, he has to. These actors need something to do. They're all their characters are dead. So why not give them something else?
Yeah, I guess that's true. I didn't think about that. All of the
literally all of these characters.
All of the shows they've announced are for quote unquote dead characters. Some dead in other fashion. Like Loki was killed pre-snap, so maybe we can assume that he was actually killed. But yeah, the other characters are all the snapped characters. Yeah, that's actually a really interesting observation. I didn't quite put that together.
Yeah, more dead characters. You're talking about the Scarlet Witch show with Elizabeth Olsen. Paul Bettany and his character Vision are supposed to join in that show, and we know that they have a romantic relationship, which was shown a little bit in Infinity War. So, and he died not once but twice. So.
It's true. The second time was particularly brutal.
Oh, yeah. Although the first one was very, very emotional.
First one was emotional and obviously, I guess brutal in other ways, whereas the second one was just like
physically.
This dude just got half of his head ripped out of his head. Like
half of his head ripped out of his head. God damn.
It's not right, man.
Inner
Like,
head pulled out of
some
head.
serious shit. That's some serious shit. You don't just pull a man's head out of his head without some serious strength behind it. Some serious conviction.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I think that Scarlet Witch and Vision together in a show makes a lot of sense. Certainly based on the comics, certainly based on the way that they tied those two characters together in Infinity
Especially
War.
The way it started. You know, they started out by themselves, right?
Yeah, they were meeting up in secret in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And you know, that whole emotional moment of Vision dying the first time, like, that's why it was so emotional, I think, is because of that relationship between her and Viz. So, yeah, I think that's really cool. I think, again, I guess, you know, the observation that these are all characters that are dead in some fashion, you know, I guess if, like, 3 out of these 4 characters that they talked about were, like, still alive at this point, and then, like, the 4th one was announced, you'd kind of be like, well, that's a bit of a spoiler, but I wonder if these are all going to be prequel type settings. Like, maybe the movies are going to be concerned with, like, here's the forward momentum, and then maybe they're going to allow the opportunity to have some backstory given to these characters in some other fashion. Or I mean, I'm assuming that most of the snapped characters are going to come back in some fashion. How that happens, what the mechanics of that are, I have absolutely no idea. And, you know, Marcus and McFeely and the Russos can take care of that. And I'm excited to find out what their solution is. But I could definitely see these shows all being basically prequel type shows.
Oh yeah, especially the Loki show. Like, I don't believe Loki's coming back.
Yeah, like, well, where do you go from there? I mean, he gotcha, tricked you again, you know. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's cool. Very cool. Excited about these Marvel shows. I can safely say that the Disney streaming service between these shows, between the you know, the Mandalorian, like, I am firmly in on that streaming service. That will quickly sew up my wallet.
All things Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, basically, and it works out well because effectively we're not actually paying for it because, you know, with the paycheck money rolling in, I mean, it's basically just playing with house money, you know?
We have an exclusive login code
Yeah.
for the streaming service when it comes out.
Okay, I mean, it's not a big deal, but, you know,
It's kind of a big deal.
we're kind of big deals, so. Henry, moving away from Marvel, we've paid our lip service for yet another episode. You have any other news?
Dude, this is not exclusive. No one told me this. I had to just kind of find this out on the social media and whatnot. And so Andrew and I are big fans of the anime My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
And apparently a lot of other people in the US are, because the popularity has been skyrocketing. And so much that Hollywood was like, hey, let's make a movie about this. But not like the animated movie that just came out, but a live action adaptation from Legendary. So
What?
yeah. My whole thing is like, please don't ruin this, but just seeing the track record with anime movies getting a live
Do we have a
action
cast?
adaptation, no, but if you want to see some glorious Photoshop pictures, just look up like My Hero Academia live action, and you'll see Dwayne The Rock Johnson as All Might, and it's kind of incredible. So I recommend any listeners who watch that show look up that image, because and then Michael Cera is the main character, Zuko Deku Midoriya, which is also fantastic. But
we need to get. Oh my God.
I'm very hesitant on this.
Who would John Cena play? Picture they're going to cast John Cena.
Well, he's Invisible Girl because you can't see her.
That's true.
I forgot her name, but this thing works so well in an anime, and I would love for this to work out, but I just don't see it.
Keep your expectations low, and everything will be fine.
That's true. Yeah.
I have very little to offer on this particular subject, given my lack of familiarity with the show itself. But Yeah, you mentioned the track record for live-action adaptations of anime. As far as I'm aware, it's piss poor. I'm sure there's an example that is kind of okay, but yeah, certain things work in certain mediums and they don't work as well in other mediums. I think that's probably a fair statement. And I mean, I guess, as always, we'll see.
Yeah, some people were like, this movie already exists. It's called Sky High. If you've all seen that one.
I have. It's been a while. People seem to like that a lot. I don't remember liking it back in the day, but
yeah, not particularly.
I don't know. Maybe it holds up. I think it's got Kurt Russell in it.
Yeah, maybe it's just like the cheesiness of it is enjoyable.
Yeah. I don't know.
Trying to find the picture of The Rock currently.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to talk about some things.
We'll know because you'll get a reaction.
Yeah. When Andrew just starts busting out laughing, you'll know what's going on. Let me talk about some news that I've got going on in my corner. Let's start with Game of Thrones.
Ooh.
Casting news for Game of Thrones prequels. Prequel singular that's happening.
There you go.
Again, that is not for Game of Thrones prequels. So,
holy shit, that's great. Oh, they got Michael Cera's Doku or whatever. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Well, I actually think that was actually timed really well because I knew it was coming and then I still got confused for a second. I'm like, well, I didn't say anything. Oh, okay. All right. I see what's happening here.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, Game of Thrones prequel. There's a pilot coming from writer Jane Goldman and Game of Thrones Song of Ice and Fire author George R.R. Martin, and Naomi Watts has signed on to play the lead role in this. The prequel is going to take place thousands of years before the TV show. I know we've talked a little bit about this before, but in terms of what they were offering up about the character that she's going to be playing, she's playing a charismatic socialite hiding a dark secret, which sounds pretty Game of Thrones to me. So
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
My first guess was that she was going to be a Targaryen without reading anything into it, but doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, I don't really know where they're going to pull this show. I don't really know exactly what direction they're going with it. I feel like maybe if you looked at the chronology of like events, you can maybe like, oh, these are like the big things that happen, and you can point to that. But I don't know if there's that much information, or if they're basically kind of just like, this is a period of time that's been previously unexplored. It's not something where the Targaryens were so omnipresent that it wouldn't be so samey. Like, I actually think that would be kind of nice, is if it's pretty different from what Game of Thrones is. I mean, I expect some consistency, otherwise you risk losing the audience, but yeah, I think it'd be refreshing to see something that's a little bit more out there, or at least different.
Oh yeah, I'm down.
So yeah.
Always down. Yeah.
And Naomi Watts is pretty good. So good start on that front. More casting news over in Andrew's favorite cinematic universe, the DC cinematic universe. Hello there. Ewan McGregor has joined DC's Birds of Prey as Black Mask, who will be the villain of this film.
I am pretty okay with that, actually.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me excited.
It's Ewan McGregor. That's pretty good. That's actually a pretty good cast right there. Black Mask, for those who are unfamiliar, he's like a mob boss in Gotham. Pretty well-known Batman villain, I think, but never been cinematically depicted as far as I'm aware. So it'll be interesting to see him depicted here. I'm less sold on the movie in general existing. Then again, that's a common theme of basically everything that DC is doing these days. So that's not, I guess, really saying a whole lot in and of itself. But I just find this, I mean, like I'd be super down with like a proper Birds of Prey movie, but this doesn't really seem to be that. Because so Margot Robbie, Harley Quinn, is basically the I think headlining character of this film, but she's not a bird of prey, and I still find it weird that they're basically doing some kind of hodgepodge of the Gotham City Sirens and the Birds of Prey, which it seems like they're kind of conflating the two here. Gotham City Sirens would be her, Poison Ivy, and Catwoman, whereas Birds of Prey traditionally is Batgirl, Huntress, and Black Canary. So Huntress and Black Canary are in this movie. I think we did not talk about the casting that happened with those. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is playing the Huntress, and Journey Smollett is playing the Black Canary. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, interestingly enough, is Ewan McGregor's wife. So that's an interesting fun fact that I'm throwing in here. And this is apparently going to receive an R rating. So
what the hell's going on?
I don't know. That's what I mean. Like I was just like, I'm scratching my head over. It's interesting. Like I find it generally interesting, but also perplexing.
Oh shit!
This sounds like it would be a lot better as a television show. Like if you told me Ian McGregor is the main villain in a Birds of Prey television series, I'd be even more excited. Personally.
Would you get excited if I told you that there already was a Birds of Prey television show and it was goddamn amazing?
What?
I'd be lying about the last part, but there definitely was a Birds of Prey show.
I was like, wait, what?
Very clever.
That happened. It did happen. That was
it on
pre-CW.
Oh, I was going to say, is it on CW?
No, that was I think early 2000s. I think was when it came on. Don't think it was CW. It was probably whatever CW's maybe it was either early CW or like whatever the WB. I think was the CW's predecessor. So yeah, real good. Look it up. Last bit of news I have for our listeners is that we received an official trailer for True Detective Season 3. So the season stars Mahershala Ali as the lead character, and it seems like he's the only detective we're following. You know, they went from 2 to like 4 kind of main characters for Season 2, and then I think it seems like maybe they're learning their lessons of less is more, and they're scaling back and going back to basics with this one. You know, one detective, maybe a more kind of focused storyline, something that seems more tonally in line with what Season 1 did, and you know, they're going to have to learn a lot of lessons to not duplicate the mistakes they did with Season 2, but I will say that this footage, this is about 2 minutes that we got here, I think it looks pretty good.
Looks pretty good.
I'm willing to check this out, certainly. I'd be hard-pressed to imagine that it's anywhere close to being as bad as the second season was.
But
stranger things have happened, I suppose, but no, I think it, like I said, it does look much more in line with what Season 1 was. I don't think you can replicate that lightning in the bottle type thing that you got with Season 1. I mean, I guess at the time that Season 2 was coming out, we didn't think it was a lightning in a bottle. We just figured it'd be a consistent thing, but you know, the sharp disparity between those two kind of makes you just immediately apprehensive of this because of that. But I don't know. I mean, maybe they got it right. I don't know. Maybe this is the Season 2 we always should have gotten.
It looked like a lot of, I don't know. I'm skeptical because it looks like they're riffing on a lot of the story beats of the first one. You know,
right? And that's the danger is instead of Season 2 did its own different thing
and it was total shit.
That was
let's go
just
back
complete
and
trash. Let's make the first one again. You know,
right.
And it absolutely could fall in that trap, and it's a very different trap, I guess. But yeah, that could be problematic. I'd agree.
It does look interesting, though. I mean, it's got a stellar lead role, so I hope he's probably going to be awesome in it. I just hope the story. I hope he can carry the show. You know what I mean? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, Henry, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, my wild prediction is that it's going to be better than Season 2, which I haven't seen.
It's awfully
and probably never will see.
We got hot takes. We got hot takes over here.
And then not as good as Season 1. But that's just my speculation right there.
All right, very good, very good. Well, I think that we can move into some Marvel Netflix 2018 television shows, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to start with Marvel's Jessica Jones Season 2. Just kidding. We already did an episode on it. Go listen to it, you dingus. What are you doing here? Also, Henry hasn't seen it yet, so probably wouldn't be appropriate to talk about it. But
you haven't seen it?
I've watched like a few episodes, but no.
I think you've. I guess you didn't watch I think you did somewhat watch everything out of order. I guess technically. I guess.
Oh yeah, totally.
I guess if you haven't watched Jessica Jones yet, then by default you have had to have watched everything out of order. So,
But even the next three are definitely out of order.
Yeah. Let's just go ahead and say spoilers for everything for the Defenders and before. So we will do a non-spoiler session for each of these new seasons that we're going to talk about, just to give it a general review. But I think
we're talking subsequent seasons. I mean, that's just what's
right. And the Defenders was kind of that big Avengers type thing that had all these characters come together, and storyline kind of left each character in their own kind of different direction. And each of these seasons definitely builds off of what happened in the Defenders. I think that certainly I would say, well, I mean, actually, I was going to say some more than others, but really each of them I think is definitely predicated upon the events of the Defenders. Whether or not it has some real lasting repercussions, I think definitely differs across the seasons. But no, definitely there's if you haven't seen the Defenders, it's short, it's not amazing, but it's definitely a good starting point for a lot of these shows. So let's get into Marvel's Luke Cage Season 2. Showrunner is Cheo Hodari Coker, returning from Season 1. Stars Mike Coulter, Simone Missick, Theo Rossi, Gabrielle Dennis, Mustaka Shakir, and Alfred Woodard. And in this season, again, spoilers-ish, after clearing his name, Bulletproof Luke Cage becomes a hero and celebrity in Harlem, but soon finds himself embroiled in a conflict between the Stokes family and a new adversary, Bushmaster. I will also say, at least on my behalf, and I think this actually might be more applicable to Andrew, it's been a while since we've watched some of these shows. I think Andrew, again, I think it's probably the furthest away in time from when you watched Luke Cage Season 2. So I can definitely say that some of the specifics are probably not going to just come to mind immediately, just because there's more recency bias with some of the other shows.
Right.
But we did watch them. We watched all 13 episodes of this show, and given that, what did you guys think of it?
I probably watched this one most recently, although I kind of started watching it when it came out, and I think I was talking to you all about it kind of as I was going, but the kind of earlier episodes really didn't grab me, and we briefly talked about Luke Cage Season 1, how it was very front-heavy, and the first half of that season was just incredible. And then the second half was definitely not on the same level. But this one, the first couple episodes, I just wasn't too involved in it. I mean, I like the characters. I like Luke Cage. I like Misty, like Claire. And but for me, it was kind of, there was a lot going on with a lot of different criminals, and there was just a lot of characters involved. And it was even like hard to keep track of just all the other like people involved in the different crimes. So later along the season, when things kind of, without getting into spoilers, but kind of, I thought became more focused, I started enjoying it a lot more, and it really focused on the characters that I enjoyed the most too. So overall, I did like it. And I won't get into recommendations, but I feel like it was around the same level as Season 1 overall for me, kind of, when you take everything into account. A lot that I liked, some stuff that I didn't like, but though I feel like it never got into some of the lows that Season 1 did towards the end. But I thought some of the highs in Season 1 were a little bit higher.
I can agree with that. I think that out of the three shows we're talking about, I think I had the hardest time stepping into this one. And I don't think it really found its stride until a couple of episodes in. I think that overall, I think it was a more consistent show because, I mean, Season 1 dropped off really fast. And this one I thought, like I said, it was consistent. And I think it was consistently okay. I didn't find it as compelling as the first season, but let me rephrase that. I didn't find it as compelling as the first half of Season 1. But it was all right. It was okay. I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it once I got into it, but like I said, it took a couple of episodes for it to find its stride, and I don't think it ever really hit those, like you said, those high notes that Season 1 hit.
Yeah, I think my general thoughts are somewhat a blend of kind of what you both have mentioned. I agree, Season 1 had higher highs, and I agree that it definitely had lower lows. The back half of season 1 is quite bad, and honestly. And I think that, as you mentioned, Andrew, this one is much more consistent. And fortunately, it's not consistently bad. I think it's consistently pretty solid throughout. I don't know that it never does quite reach, I think, those highs from season 1, the Cottonmouth highs. I think we can probably specifically point to a character that single-handedly buoyed that first 7 episodes of season 1. This one doesn't quite have that presence that Mahershala Ali brought in that role, but it never quite falters, I think, throughout. I think it's pretty good. I think, if anything, it's still too long. I think it's still kind of story material that should not have been stretched across 13 episodes, but I didn't think that it wasn't... I mean, season 1 had a very deliberate split to it, and I think that's kind of what killed the momentum of it a lot, is that you had a great first 7 episodes and then a back half of 6 episodes about a story that was, again, pretty bad overall. This one, I think, is more of a 13-episode kind of slow burn approach, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's been a common thing for the Netflix shows to do that in a way that's not wholly satisfying because it's just not paced very well overall. I thought that this one, I think a lot of it, I would say personally, is just owed to the fact that I didn't binge watch this show. I kind of just watched an episode here and there at a time. I think that helps a little bit with the pacing of it because it doesn't feel like as much of a drag, like you're kind of like forcing yourself to watch it. It's just kind of like, watch one here and then next day I'll watch one. So I think that helps a little bit in general, but I found that the pacing in this was fine. It's just, it's material that's still stretched ever so slightly, just a little bit too thin. But I thought the material itself, if you look at the material of it, I thought that it was pretty good. A lot of good character work here. I think Luke Cage is... Mike Coulter, I think, is characteristically good as Luke Cage. This is a show for me. I think that some of the supporting characters really shine. I think Simone Missick's Misty Knight, she got a lot of focus here, and I think she's great. I think the character is great. It's a really interesting place for the character post the Defenders, now that she's armless. They really pushed for that story there, and it made sense to do that because that's a pretty big fucking deal to change someone's life. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed me some shades. I'll admit. And I thought that in terms of like the villainous presences, we have Mariah, who is a through line from season 1, and then Bushmaster is, this new threat. And I thought that while he wasn't a Cottonmouth type character, I thought that he was still pretty good. He was light years ahead of, say, Diamondback from season 1.
The direction was compelling, like his point of view. I thought it was all right.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that overall it felt pretty thematically consistent with season 1. A lot of the kind of feel to it, the colors to it, they kept the whole music aspect from season 1, which I appreciated, that it didn't feel like super reactionary to like, oh, people didn't like this thing, we got to do something totally different. Like, one of these shows we're talking about had to do something very different from its first season for obvious reasons. This one felt like more of the same, but just a more consistent approach to it. And I think that overall it's a big improvement from season 1 because of that. At the same time, I would agree that it doesn't quite, it's not top tier television by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I think, we talked about the shows getting canceled, and I think that for me, this is a show that I think, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's probably true of any of these shows. I would still be interested in seeing more of these characters and seeing kind of where these things go. And, we can get into specifics of that shortly when we get into spoilers. But I think just generally speaking, like, this show for me was interesting enough. I enjoyed it moment to moment. I enjoyed it looking back on it. I watched all these shows in order. So, finished Jessica Jones when it came out. Andrew and I did the episode on it. Luke Cage, I didn't watch immediately, like right when it dropped, but I did watch it before I watched any of these other shows that we're talking about.
Right.
And, I never, to me, felt like a grind. I always enjoyed watching it. And again, I think a lot of that is just because wasn't like I was like, oh shit, we got to do an episode on it tomorrow. I got to watch 6 episodes today. Like I never put myself in that situation. It was kind of just watching it at my own kind of leisure. And I think that I always kind of found myself like yeah, let me fire up an episode. I was interested in it, and I think that kind of speaks well of the show.
Is music selection for spoilers or?
I don't think so.
Yeah, is there something in there that would lead you to think that it is?
No, just
spoilerific?
not thematically, but just like who's featured in season 2.
Oh, okay. No, I see what you're saying. I would say that I would not care if someone told me that, but
yeah,
I mean, it's been out for close to half a year now too, so there's also that. So I think it's fair game.
Yeah, because I will say, and season 1 did have, I think, very good quality music, and I just love the way that it was implemented into the show, with it being in Harlem's Paradise and had people performing. And I thought season 2 definitely kept that momentum up. I was just looking up because I was trying to remember who all played in season 2. So episode 1 was Joy. Episode 2 was D-Nice. Later on, episode 2, Gary Clark Jr., who I enjoy a lot. Episode 3, Esperanza Spalding. Episode 4, I think, was the standout of this season for me. Christone Kingfish Ingram. Just played a insane guitar solo.
Yeah, I remember that episode.
If you remember that, yeah, like.
And this is coming from several months ago, I think, right?
Yeah, that was
at least a couple months ago. Yeah, that stood out. I really enjoyed that.
Okay. Yep. I just looked them up.
Episode 5.
I remember the guitar solo, but yeah.
Yeah, really, really great. Episode 5, Ghostface Killer. Episode 7, Stephen Marley. And episode 10,
that was a good one too.
Faith Evans and Jadakiss. And episode 12, KRS-One. Oh, and Rakim for episode 13. So really good quality music performances and some couple pretty big names coming in for the show. So that was very consistent, I thought, through both of these seasons, the music.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they didn't go away from that. I think that the show, by utilizing that, kind of has a unique element to it, and I think that adds a lot of dimension to the show to have that, and to use those musical performances to elevate, I think, the scenes in which they're used. I think there's a lot of kind of montage type sequences where they kind of use the music to really kind of drive things home, and I think it's done really well.
I concur.
Yeah.
Concurrence. All right. Well, you guys have any other non-spoiler thoughts? We've got plenty to talk about, so we don't need to linger if there's really nothing else to talk about.
No, I just agree with Mike Coulter is a good Luke Cage, and the supporting characters are all very strong, and I think Misty Knight probably the strongest among those.
Agreed. All right. Well, recommendation-wise, quick reminder to our listeners. Again, it's been a little while since we did a TV show, and Henry, I'm not actually sure that you've done TV show episode with us before.
I don't believe so.
I don't think so either. I've been wrong before in my life, but I don't think I am this time. So this is a reminder for you as well. We have a 5-tier rating scale for television shows, and let's start at the bottom. The absolute worst rating we can give out is shithouse, and we're going to move upward from here. We're going to go up to fine, middle ground at totally fine, and then we're getting into the positives here. Yes, and then the best of the best is a very yes. So,
I love it.
All right.
I mean, it's a damn good rating scale.
Yeah,
if I do say so myself.
It does paint a very clear picture of quality television, I think.
Yeah. So where do you guys end up with this one?
I can kick this off.
Okay.
I remember this one being totally fine. I enjoyed it. It was good. There are standout moments. But I think it's consistently totally fine. I wouldn't say it's as far as a yes. Maybe like in between a totally fine and a yes, maybe. But I don't recall being really hyped up about one thing one way or the other. I just thought it was totally fine. I kind of just coasted my way through it. Like, I didn't mind that I was watching it, and it wasn't outrageously, it didn't ever really like, oh my god, this sucks. Never pulled me away. But at the same time, it didn't really get me pumped. Like, I didn't queue up another episode right away because I was so fucking excited to see what happened.
You weren't pumping up the jam? Pump it up while your feet are stomping?
No, my feet weren't stomping. Not really.
Okay.
I was just kind of just fucking chilling.
All right.
It was totally fine. Totally fine.
All right. Henry, do you have thoughts?
I was thinking in between totally fine and yes as well.
Oh, so you're just going to invent a new fucking rating. That's fine.
No.
I'm not going to break the fucking system. All right.
I'm just giving my background. I would also put it.
Step off, bitch. Let me give you background.
No, I would also put it totally fine. Like there, I think where it ended for me, I enjoyed it a lot. But when you look at all 13 episodes in total, there are plenty of times where I was just kind of watching, maybe like pull out my phone and not be completely captivated by it. But overall, I enjoyed it. Thought the second half, wasn't a split like the first season, but it definitely interested me more, especially towards the end. So I'll stick with totally fine.
I'm going to stick with yes on this one.
Very
I'm
nice.
going above both of you. I like this one. Again, I thought it was just so much more consistent than season 1. And I thought the character work was just really well done. And, where it did feel consistent with season 1, I think, was with the good parts of season 1. So I think that, I think I'm okay with giving this one a yes. I had a good time with this one. Would have been better if it was 10 episodes, but alas, you don't get everything you want. But, All right, let's jump into spoilers for this. So, full spoilers for Marvel's Luke Cage, Season 2.
You're going nowhere.
It is a little bonesaw, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Macho Man Randy Savage. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Randy Savage. Spoilers for Luke Cage Season 2. Where should we begin here?
Mariah's a cold motherfucker, dude.
Yeah, dude. Holy shit.
Yeah.
God damn, that scene in the fucking restaurant was some dark shit, man.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. That was pretty graphic, too. Like,
Yeah.
I was surprised that
Fucking guy.
we saw all of that.
That was fucking hardcore. That whole scene, like, that's like Mariah's been shitbag, I think, pretty consistently throughout the show, but that was like a
whole nother level.
That was the point of no return, definitely. Like, that's the moment in the show where you're like, you know what, I'm on Bushmaster's side. This is fine.
Even Shades was like,
yeah.
When
when Shades was like, you know what,
I'm out.
I'm done. Yeah, like yeah. That was on my notes for spoilers. That was the scene that was like, whoa, you can do that in a Marvel show? Like, I guess we've seen people get decapitated with car doors and shit, but that was still definitely
super
out there.
brutal. Yeah.
How about our boy Danny Rand in this show?
Yeah. I enjoyed that. It's one of my
I like that episode.
That was a good episode.
It was a good episode, yeah. I feel like I would have appreciated him being more involved with this show, honestly. Like, I felt like him dropping in for the episode and, kind of being... It's like they're slowly repairing the Danny Rand character, and we'll obviously get a little bit more into that soon, but, like, boy, you start out with the absolute worst iteration of the character, and he's definitely more enjoyable in Defenders, and I felt like this was even more enjoyable than how he was in the Defenders. Like he's just coming in and having a good time, and I'm like, yeah, I'm having a good time with Danny Rand. We're not actually laughing at Danny Rand. We're kind of laughing with him, and it's like this is he's making strides. I mean, we gotta respect that. Yeah, I thought it was really fun. These characters have a good camaraderie, and it was nice to kind of see that on display. I just wish there was kind of a little bit more than that, and it was also, it was like episode 10, I think, when he came in, so would have been appreciated to see it earlier in the season, but yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, he was fun. Iron Fisting about.
What about Bushmaster?
Bushmaster, yeah. I thought Bushmaster was awesome. I will say that I'm probably not alone in saying this. I had a difficult time understanding Bushmaster, especially in the context of like the restaurant when he's talking with like his extended family and all that. Just the accents were kind of like, well, it was layer cake all over again for me. Like they're still speaking
Those are
English,
some
but
authentic Jamaican accents. God,
yeah, that's what I assumed is like they just went for full on authenticity with it, which is it's cool. But I was just like, man, I'm debating putting subtitles on right now. Like it's kind of bad right now. I got most of the meaning out of it, so I think I'm all right. But I enjoyed Bushmaster as a character a whole lot. I think that what I enjoy.
His aerobatics were cool.
Yeah, and him fighting Luke Cage, the sequences when they kind of showed down, like it was really well done, I thought. But I thought that the character, of Bushmaster was really interesting. I thought the way that they tied him in with Mariah and with kind of the Stokes family was really well done. And I think in general, with the exception of Diamondback, I think we can say that the villains in like the Marvel Netflix shows are usually pretty well done. And the nice thing is with even if we can say that the 13 episodes is too long for most of these shows, and it is, we can still say that it gives them the opportunity to expound on these characters' like lives through flashbacks and stuff like that. And I think that they definitely hit the mark for me with Bushmaster of kind of giving you enough with this character to really kind of sympathize with him. And I enjoyed that he wasn't just a giant asshole throughout the whole season. Like he kind of evolves from, like an antagonist towards Luke Cage to, I think they kind of team up a little bit towards the end. And I always kind of enjoy that villain team up angle. I thought that was done pretty well here.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting that he kind of got put out of commission pretty much by the end of the show. Like he just got like super fucked up. And, he was kind of just, I think he spends like the last few episodes just basically kind of getting nursed back to health, and he never really quite recovers from that. So I thought that was kind of an interesting storytelling decision too, but I thought that it was compelling, and yeah, I enjoyed him. I mean, am I alone in thinking that Bushmaster was pretty well done? How'd you guys feel about him?
I think he's relatable, especially when you see how fucking terrible the Stokes family is. Like, yeah, fuck those people.
Stokes. Mariah Stokes.
Mariah Dillard?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Stokes.
I like me some Bushmaster too. Sorry, Andrew, let you finish.
No, I was going to say
Stokes.
I just just Stokes.
Yeah, do you have anything else to add?
No, I just wanted to say it again.
Stokes. Yeah, I like that we got his backstory. I would have liked even more of it. Because when they first introduced him, I was like, all right, this guy's cool. He punched Luke Cage, but like, what's his deal? Why is he strong? Like, he got some nightshade. And then they start going more, and like, why does he hate, the Stokes and stuff? And then they give him more background. And I was like, okay, I could really see it. So some of those flashbacks to, Jamaica I thought were really cool.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would like to shout out, Shades. I thought Shades was awesome in this show. Which I liked him a lot. I liked him a lot in season 1, but I felt like they added a lot of depth to Shades here, especially the way that they kind of dealt with Shades and Comanche. I thought was really, really compelling in a way that I never expected from this show. I know it's been a little while for you, Andrew, but the way that those two characters interacted with each other, like Comanche has this obvious love for Shades, and kind of resulting from the relationship that they had when they were in prison together. And I don't know, I guess I didn't pick up on a lot of that until it was kind of made pretty obvious to the viewer. But then when it did kind of hit that, and then kind of the ultimate resolution of that, where Shades, he basically kills him, but then he actually kind of puts him out of his misery, and kind of, he doesn't do the smart thing in the sense that, the way he was trying to stage it, where it looked like the captain was killing him or whatever, because you guys probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, right. So I don't need to explain the whole scene, but yeah, I thought that whole dynamic there, again, was unexpected for me, but really, really well done. Yeah, I mean,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, okay. So I say I'm like saying things, and I'm like, no one's saying anything back. What's going on here? What's going on? I need feedback.
I didn't like him in the first season, and I definitely enjoyed him a lot more in this season, especially after all the things with Comanche and how he changes as a character at the end of the season.
Mm.
You see him pay respects to the mom and stuff, and the mom fucking spits in his face or whatever. That was pretty It's pretty harrowing.
Yeah.
I think he was consistently a really good character. I always enjoyed him. I enjoyed him in the first season. I enjoyed him in this one. He's always, I don't know,
Yeah, I think he's kind of cornball, but like the good kind of cornball for me. Like he, he's
like
got
a
this
level-headed
kind of swagger
gangster.
to him a little bit.
Yeah.
And he's got he's got a code.
Exactly.
And, he talked about like Mariah going fucking absolutely batshit. She went full Cersei, I guess, in a way.
Just gives no shits. Fuck those people. Fuck them all.
It's. I think he's an interesting character. I think with hold on here, pun intended. He has some shades to his character. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. I also really enjoyed Reggie Cathy, and I think either his final performance or one of his final performances as James Lucas, Luke Cage's father.
He was good.
The thing at the end was probably a really high point. I think it happened at the end of the season. Didn't they have like a little homage to him? Like he had him reciting a line at the end of the season.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah,
right.
that hit a nerve. I remember that. That specifically made me kind of emotional a little bit. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I was surprised by how involved his character was, but I thought that it again, that was something that for me added a nice dynamic to the show and added something to Luke's character, and I appreciated that. I also, I mean, I'm kind of just jumping around here at this point, but I felt like the show's treatment of Claire was interesting in the way that they used her, and I don't know if it's a case of Rosario Dawson kind of wanting to move on to greener pastures or exactly what it was, but she got wrote out pretty quickly, and we didn't see her on screen in the last episode, even though I think she was referred to. I don't know, I kind of just felt like...
She was referred to throughout the season, right?
Right, yeah, right? And it was kind of like, she leaves him because he's being a gigantic asshole and punches a hole in the wall and all that good stuff, and then, like, it's kind of it seems like it's building towards, like a reconciliation moment, but then kind of takes a sharp turn at the end where, Luke kind of does what he does, and again, something we'll talk about certainly. It just seemed like it, I don't know, like, to me it felt like, and this is, I guess, somewhat also added on by the two shows after this, like, it kind of seems like this might be the last time we see Claire Temple on screen. I don't know. It just kind of felt like it was a lingering thread that I feel like I want more, and I guess it's just maybe a consequence of, well, shit, if there's no Luke Cage season 3, then that's probably where it would have been most likely to get addressed. But
I don't have to cut you off. I don't. Go ahead. Keep going.
No, I don't really have much else to say here.
I think that where it ended was really strange for Luke Cage, especially knowing that they closed the season off, or closed the series off.
The general ending.
Yeah, like where he if I'm
he's like the fucking sheriff of Harlem, basically taking over Harlem's Paradise and all that.
Is that how you took it?
Kingpin.
Yeah, he's basically like, instead of like preventing the crime, like he'll just control it. Basically, is what I gathered of it.
Right, and how does that shape him as a heroic character?
I mean, I think it definitely pulls him into some pretty gray shades of morality, and I think that's interesting, but it's less interesting if you don't explore it. So,
like, would that pit Daredevil against Luke Cage?
Potentially.
Yeah, if they, like,
because he's deliberately allowing crime to happen in certain like he's in a way he's enabling things, right? Like, that's his, like you said, Henry's a kingpin in a way, right?
Yeah, and he's like making sure like certain things don't happen in Harlem, but he's like, just go take that shit elsewhere, and like, just Manhattan's like, just go somewhere else, and like potentially could go to Hell's Kitchen with Daredevil. Yeah, that I think that would have been a very interesting direction to take another season in, but we may not find out.
Yeah. So, do you remember Luke Cage breaking fucking fingers?
Yeah.
Was it
he goes into that lady
cockroach? Is that like the?
I don't remember. I can't remember. He goes into see there's like a lady cartel.
Yeah, like she's the head of like Italian mafia.
Okay,
he kicks ass all the way up into her house, and then grabs one of her bodyguards and just breaks him apart. It was pretty brutal. There's a lot of brutal moments in this show. It's pretty brutal. But anyways, do you guys want to talk about another show?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think we can. I think we can talk about another show. I think we can talk about Marvel's Iron Fist Season 2.
Danny Rand?
Danny Rand. Danny, my boy. We're going to talk about you. I'm very upset that I wasn't in this season, Danny, but it's understandable that given you had a different showrunner, Raven Metzner was the new showrunner. Scott Buck did not return for this iteration of Marvel's Iron Fist, and I found that very disappointing because I felt that it robbed me of the opportunity to give more cinnamon ice cream.
Cinnamon wheat.
Yes, correction to that. Some cinnamon wheat ice cream to Kyle, my assistant.
Fucking Kyle. Best moment, I think, in television, in Netflix television history. It's fucking Kyle. I bought you some ice cream, Kyle. I can remember it so vividly. So good.
I debated doing that whole bit with my Herald voice, but I was just like, I don't know that I want to commit that much. So let me finish this, and we'll jump into Iron Fist Season 2. Maybe some ice cream talk too. Stars Finn Jones, Jessica Hennick, Tom Pelfrey, Jessica Stroop, Sacha Dhawan, Simone Missick again, and Alice Eve. Danny Rand, the immortal Iron Fist, takes up Daredevil's mission to protect New York City with the help of friends Colleen Wing and Misty Knight, colloquially referred in the comics as the Daughters of the Dragon. Iron Fist Season 2, I mean, I think this one had the most legwork to fix things from Season 1. I think we can agree that Season 1 was not what it should have been. It's not what anyone wanted it to be. It was a bit of a letdown, shall we say, after I think the general quality of all of the Netflix shows leading up to its release. It kind of felt like an afterthought, and it definitely was. Did this do enough to fix kind of what Season 1 fucked up? I mean, did you enjoy it on its own merits? I mean, where are you guys at with Iron Fist Season 2?
I think I talked about... I don't know if I talked about this with you, Colton, or not, but
okay.
I could have swore I talked about it with somebody. Iron Fist for me is kind of like a guilty pleasure. Like the first one was...
No, I think we actually talked about it on air. So
did we? Okay.
Yeah,
like the first one was... I know it wasn't good. It wasn't a good show.
It was not. I can confirm. Hold on. It was... Wait for it. Shithouse.
It was shithouse.
It was completely agreed.
We didn't have that rating system at the time, but if we can retroactively assign it, I think we can all agree that it was shithouse. It definitely is.
It's the definition of that category.
However, it's better than Inhumans. I will say that.
Did you enjoy it though? I mean, did you enjoy watching it?
The first season you're talking about?
Yeah, first season. Did you find yourself like, what's going to happen next with Danny Rand?
Once it got going, it wasn't so bad. Like, I think initially it was absolutely dreadful. But
what's this stupid motherfucker doing? How does he know kung fu? I don't understand.
I think the bigger drive for me was just like, when is this going to get better? And then that moment just really never happened. So we're just like, oh no, there goes 13 hours of my life. What have I done? And then the absolute madmen, we all turn around and commit another 10 hours of our life thinking...
And let me tell you about these 10 hours. Let me tell you about my experience with this 10 hours.
Please do.
I enjoyed the shit out of this 10 hours. I grinded this shit out really quick. And I think I told you, like, I started one day, and then, like, shortly after I texted you, said, oh, okay, I'm done. And like, goddamn,
it was probably 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, I grinded it out. I thoroughly enjoyed the show. I don't think, to be clear, I feel like I have like I don't know what this bias is with Danny Rand, but
my boy Danny Rand.
Yeah, see, I didn't find the villain compelling at all. I thought it was just a very shallow character.
Danny.
Oh fuck.
I'm a real Iron Fist, Danny. I'm sorry. I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit. I'm sorry.
He's just a very two-dimensional, one-note guy, which is whatever. Okay, they tried to expand on it, but it didn't really. Much like everything in the Iron Fist catalog, it's just all kind of just duds. You know, like, here I'm going to introduce this. It's kind of shit, but that's okay. We're going to keep throwing duds at you, and maybe one will stick to the wall. But I enjoyed it. I don't know what it is. Like I said, I can't quite put my finger on it. There was some real wacky shit that happened at the end of it.
We will get into it, yes.
Yeah, we'll get into it. And I was just kind of like, fuck yeah, this shit's getting crazy. You know, and that's pretty much all I got. I really...
basically, you can't explain why you seem to watch it consistently, but fuck it, man, you did, and you know, you had a good time.
I feel like it's kind of like when you were really grinding out the CW shows. It's like, God damn, Colton, I don't understand why you watch this shit.
That is a very apt comparison, and I totally get it. You know, you put it in that lens, and I'm like, you know, yep, you're right. You are absolutely 100% right. I can't explain it. I know that it's not good, but there's just a compulsion. It's just there.
Yeah, you know, and I think there's some cool things that happen in the show here. I really enjoyed the footwork. Like you said, you talked about all the fuckery that happened in the first one, and where it left that character, and the way you feel about that character, and the way that they handled it in the season, I thought was interesting, and I found it kind of humorous.
Yeah.
And I guess we can probably expand on that in spoilers, but if you enjoyed the first one, I'm going to go out on the limb and say you'll probably enjoy the second one.
Your mind's going to be fucking blown. Also, you should watch other television, because
there's probably better things to watch. But if you're just, I don't know, if you just want to sit on the couch all day, I think that's how I grinded it out in such a short span. I think I literally sat on the couch for like 12 hours. That's longer than the actual season. Never mind.
It took some breaks between episodes.
But I think I did knock it out in almost one day.
Made some food, made some ramen noodles or some shit.
Yeah, I actually think that's what I ate. Try to get in the spirit of Danny Rand. Had some noodles. Anyways, yeah. What'd you think about this show, Henry? Somebody else talk, please.
Okay, I'll start and say that I definitely enjoyed it more than season one. And I finished it pretty recently. I also started it pretty recently. Like, I must have started like 2 weeks ago. After watching Daredevil, I think, is when I even started it. But I was like, let me go into this, a fresh take. I heard that it's definitely better than season one. And then they replayed like a recap of season one before season two started. And it just made me angry. I just started getting mad at it. And I was like, I wanted to go in with good intentions, and that recap just made me mad. I was like, God damn it, season one was so bad. And it wasn't a thing that I can enjoy as much as I can with some other, like, just wonky, like, silly television. Just because I like me some Danny Rand in the comics a whole lot. I like me some Iron Fist, and his stories, he doesn't have a lot of, like, really good stories, but his stories that are good are just goddamn, like, some of the best comics that I've read. And so when you have like 2 seasons and I'm still not in love with your Iron Fist, like that, I was like, And it's not even Finn Jones necessarily that does it, although I thought he was better in this season, just kind of from most aspects. But it has, I thought the supporting characters were stronger than Iron Fist, and without going into spoilers, the thing that kept pissing me off too is that he just got beat up every episode. Like, he got beat up every single episode. I'm like, and they were self-aware of it, and they'd be like, and Ward would be like, hey Danny, I thought you were like the best like martial artist, like kung fu person like in the world, and then he gets beat up by like some random like street gang. And I'm like, it's good that you're self-aware, but like, make your Iron Fist a little bit stronger. Like, he just gets beat up by everybody. And
he keeps putting himself out there, and at the end of the day, Henry, that's what defines a hero, okay?
but you gotta succeed. You gotta put yourself out there and not get beat up by like some random dude. Like I think I could think of like 2 like scenes maybe where he like actually kicks ass, and the rest of it he just gets his ass kicked. Well, as Colleen Wing definitely kicks a lot of ass. Like she's barely breaks a sweat through like half of her fights. She's just like taking people out, no problem. She doesn't have a glowing fist, you know, and she's just putting in the work.
Still fucks everybody up.
Yeah, and
she always knows what to do too. You know.
Yeah. And like she wasn't raised in Kunlun. Like she was raised in I think New York. You know, just
she was raised by the hand, or at least trained.
She was raised by the hand, so that's true. Like, and that explains why she's such a good fighter. But like, Danny Rand should still be better. But anyway, getting off of Danny Rand, Misty Knight was great, and her with Colleen Wing was great.
Mm-hmm.
I also didn't love Davos in this. I thought I was expecting a little bit more after they already had one season to kind of introduce him.
Well, she didn't come into season 1 until very late. To be fair.
Yeah. But just I didn't hate Davos, but just again, kind of knowing some of the comic book backstory, I would have liked a little more from his character. Like he was just like, you know, when he starts on his killing spree, he's just like murdering people left and right, and I'm just like, this is unnecessary. Like I get you're trying to clean up New York, but like, goddamn, you're just like murdering, you know, a shop owner that doesn't agree with you. But it had a lot of points that were pretty low for me, even in this season, that I just kind of struggled to get through. But I will say that it did have a couple of moments, particularly towards the end of the series, where it got me interested. And I remember, I think it was between episodes 9 and 10, I was just going to watch episode 9 and go to bed. And it actually had me interested enough that I had already watched episode 8 that night, finished episode 9, and I was like, I need to watch the
fuck
finale.
It, man. I want to keep this Danny Rand train going.
I'm like, I'm actually interested now. Like it took 9 episodes or so to get me into it, but better late than never. You got me hooked eventually. So
love it.
Some positives, other negatives, but I'll save a little bit more for spoilers.
I have a proposition. What if we reframed our thinking of this show to say that Colleen Wing is actually the main character? Does that change anything? Like, you put aside comic book history, and obviously we know that Danny Rand's the Iron Fist, but I mean, both season 1 and season 2 were Colleen Wing shows, were they not? There was still like a lot kind of like focus around. It's a lot. I mean, if you frame it that way, there's a lot of time wasted on this stupid asshole that keeps shaking his head like a dipshit and keeps talking about how he's the protector of Kunlun and all that bullshit. But
I fought a dragon.
Did you though? I didn't see a dragon. I personally have never seen a dragon depicted in any of these seasons, so I don't know what he's talking. Actually, that's a lie. I've seen dragon bones in the Defenders, but it's the closest we've ever come to Shaolin. Everyone forgot about that. No one fucking references that there's fucking like, dragon bones under New York. Like that's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We would like to talk about that time we found the dragon bones under New York. We're just gonna move on with our lives.
Right over that. Yeah. What about that time there was a dragon on the rooftop? Those blinking, but it wasn't a dragon. It was a fucking.
He was just really reminded of that time. I swear, I think there was an episode. In episode 1 or 2. There's a reference like there's like blinking lights, and it looked like it was just like a not so subtle like "fuck you" again to Scott Buck of like you fucking dipshit. But then we didn't actually see a dragon anyway, so it was just kind of like, oh well, you really didn't do any better, did you?
And see, okay. I have just as much fun talking about Danny Rand as I do watching Danny Rand.
Okay,
this is the way I feel when I watch the show.
I agree that much.
Well, he is a pretty good sized punching bag, and it's fun to punch the punching bag. He just invites himself to the punching. Like, I agree, it's not really an indictment of Fenn Jones. I think he's probably the worst cast of any of the Defenders, but he's definitely better here than he was in season 1. I think that the writing in general is definitely better than it was in season 1. But I do think, it still is kind of, in a way, just a fundamental I don't know about a misunderstanding, but like just a fundamentally
it's not the best
bad
fit.
Interpretation of the events, whether it's hamstrung by budget, whether it's hamstrung by people that just aren't familiar with the source material, as I think was the case in season 1, or if it is in this case, I think hamstrung by season 1 in general. Like this, to me, I've talked about this a little bit previously on the podcast. I think that this, to me, felt like a 10-episode course correction of season 1, where it's just like, oh my god, we have to undo everything that was so shit about that. And in doing that, they spent a lot of time basically trying to, what seeds were sown, they had to play with that and kind of carry them out. I mean, they could have just dropped things wholesale and probably gotten away with it. But I think that this, especially in this universe where like all these characters are connected and there's continuity, they didn't want to just like drop things super unceremoniously. And so they kind of spent a lot of time with characters that, I think that I enjoy Ward a lot as a character. I think he's fun personally, but he's a character that like, if I was making an Iron Fist show, probably wouldn't exist.
He's unnecessary,
and that for me is kind of the one thing where I'm just like, okay, I take this show on its own merits, and it inherited, I think, things from season 1, and I think it did a good job with some of those things, and it added some new elements I like that I enjoyed, but in general, it was just kind of like, this left us in such a bad place that we have to spend all this time getting to where we need to be. And I think, I don't know, like it sucks on one hand just because I think that they were kind of getting to some things that could be interesting. As Luke Cage was kind of the same way, it was like, okay, this is ending in a particularly interesting spot. I would like to see where things go from here. This one's kind of that same thing, but then it's just kind of also, well, it got canceled, and I don't really fault Netflix for canceling this show in particular, I guess, because of how things started. I think it's unfortunate in general, just because I think definitely Andrew's going to agree. I think Andrew would be sad to see the tales of Danny Rand never depicted in live action again.
I'm pretty I'm pretty disappointed. I'm not going to see any more seasons.
Yeah,
especially with where this season left off. It left off.
It was
really crazy.
It left off in a way that it felt like, okay, we've closed that chapter. Let's move into the next thing. And the next thing is going to be something a little bit more potentially comic book accurate and something hopefully more interesting. And we'll get into that into some more detail later. But I thought in general, just to talk generally, I thought that this was definitely a big improvement over season 1. Shortened episode order was much appreciated. I thought that was a really good decision to keep it a little bit tighter. Choreography was leaps and bounds better than what we got in season 1. Like, they definitely let Finn Jones have more than like 30 minutes to train before they shot like a full fight sequence, which was good. That was appreciated. There was a couple moments where he had a mask of some sort, whether it was kind of the face, the fucking Mortal Kombat ninja mask, or the brief snippet we saw of the Iron Fist mask. Those are easy ways to allow stunt people that actually know what they're doing to do things that show that they know what they're doing. And in general, it was just better across the board, and I appreciated that. It did have the issue story-wise of Danny being not as good of a fighter as he definitely should be. I mean, there is somewhat of a story reason for it, but it's not enough to excuse how bad he is at everything still. And that's again a frustration that's a carryover, I think, from season 1. And I don't think that's something that they quite totally repaired by the end of the season. But I don't know. I mean, well, let's. You want to jump into recommendation?
Yeah, we can jump into recommendation.
All right, I'm going to start here. I'm going to say that this show for me is totally fine. I think that I think it's a big improvement over season 1, and for me, it's kind of straddling the line between like, getting things right and just kind of wasting its time with the things that it shouldn't have wasted its time on. Like, I think you give this crew here like basically carte blanche with this to basically just do their own thing, I think you get a better result than this. I think this one was hamstrung a lot by what came before it. And when you start with Shithouse, theoretically there's no way to go but up. And I think that they did manage to accomplish that at the very least. But I felt like, there was just so much they had to do. And that definitely kind of just held them back. So I'd land on totally fine. I definitely enjoyed this less than Luke Cage, personally. But it was, I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it overall. I thought the characters were good-ish. Some of them, most of them. But it's, for me, this is the one show in all of Netflix where the lead character is one of the worst characters on the show, and that is not a recipe for success, I would say. So yeah, totally fine. I'm sticking with totally fine. How do you guys feel?
I'm gonna say just fine.
Just fine. The fuck is that?
Fine.
It's fine. I think that's distinguished from totally fine, right?
It's fine. Yeah.
So a step up from Shithouse.
And I think if it wasn't for the last 3 episodes, I would actually consider it dropping down a little bit. But the last 3 episodes I enjoyed, and if maybe he wore his mask for more than a flashback, I would consider maybe upping it. But it's just like a simple thing that really pissed me off all 10 episodes. The fact that he would just not put on a real Iron Fist mask.
In the way they portrayed that, the marketing material kind of alluded to fuck his costume. It never happened.
Because, it's a silly costume, but just, he's a billionaire. He shouldn't go around just beating people up.
Yeah.
In the middle of the day. But that's, I
He's
won't
got a
get
hoodie,
into
man.
that.
He's got a hoodie.
I say it's fine.
What does Andrew say?
I say totally fine. And I say totally fine because I think it's, and I have an unfair, almost the opposite of Henry's unfair bias. I feel like Henry is so involved with the comic book that a lot of things that happen in the show you might find slightly infuriating,
Yeah.
With me, I don't have, I'm exposed to it, but I think I was exposed to the show before I was exposed to the material and the source material. And I think it's an enjoyable show. I personally, I know that it doesn't have the merits of Luke Cage. I think Luke Cage is cinematically a tighter experience and much more earned. But for me personally, I actually enjoyed season 2 of Danny Rand more than I enjoyed season 2 of Luke Cage. And I think, it was a lot easier for me to grind it out for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure why, because like I said, I know that Luke Cage is technically better. But I don't know. I just didn't enjoy it as much. I enjoyed Danny Rand and the shitty show. It's totally okay though. It's not total shit. It's totally fine. But it's kind of shitty. Can we get into spoilers? Because I have I want to make a point that I find that I just thought was funny.
Okay, all right, so let's get Macho Man Randy Savage in on this. Full spoilers for Marvel's Iron Fist, Season 2. What point would you like to make?
I'd like to make the point that so Season 1, it's infuriating that you have this guy named, you got this Danny Rand guy who says that he's killed a dragon, but he gets a shit beat out of him at every turn, right? Mm-hmm. Why is he the Iron Fist? It's the question. And then they find that they pose the same question. They didn't intend to ask that question in season 1, but that's the question that everybody's asking. How the fuck's this guy Iron Fist? Doesn't make any sense. Season 2 comes around, and now the characters are questioning, why is he the Iron Fist? And they're asking it to the point where they actually take his Iron Fist away. You're not even going to be the fucking Iron Fist anymore.
Yeah.
We're taking it away from you now. So now you go the whole show, literally. You go the whole show And now you don't even have an Iron Fist. Now you have Danny Rand. It's authentically a Danny Rand show. And then at the end of the show, Colleen Wing gets a fucking Iron Fist.
Hey, man, I told you she was the fucking main character. Did I not? It was just a 2-season long journey for her to become the Iron Fist, the titular Iron Fist.
Danny Rand, you're not, you know what? We asked, the audience has asked, and throughout the story, we've asked you, why are you the Iron Fist? And we've come up to the answer of,
no one fucking knows.
Yeah, you're not a fucking Iron Fist. We're going to go ahead and give it to another character.
You suck at this.
Sir.
We're going to give it to the character that beats the shit out of everyone else, yeah.
And then we're going to cancel your show. Fuck you, we're done.
It's the thing. I'm somewhere in the middle man. I'm somewhere in the middle where like I'm sympathetic to Andrew's point of view. Like this is just fucking hilarious. Just pulling it back. Like if Andrew's like, God damn, it's incredible from that perspective. And then you look at it from Henry's perspective, and anyone in kind of that boat where it's just like, this is bullshit. You know, like
the whole thing's fucking hilarious. Oh. Jesus. Anyways,
this is what happens when you bring Scott Buck in to fucking make your show, man. Like you can literally trace all of this to one fucking guy that got paid to do it. He got paid to do it. He got paid just like us.
Oh, Lord.
Probably a lot more actually.
A lot more.
Yeah, what's up with that, Feige? I mean, I know you're not running Marvel TV and all, but
God damn. It's like a fucking Shakespearean play, dude. It's fucking brutal. I thought that was just, God damn. I thought it was hysterical when he got his powers taken away. I laughed my ass off.
Well, what I found kind of somewhat baffling, somewhat interesting at the same time is I just figured that'd be like a 2-3 episode arc.
No,
that was the whole fucking show from that.
That was
like,
permanent.
That was like he never got his powers back, and like even at the tail end, like I still don't really think he got his powers back. Like it was just like he had the Iron Fist for 3 episodes. It was taken away from him, and then that was it. The Iron Fist was fucking Davos. He was the Iron Fist for half the season. He just went around fucking murdering everyone.
Murdering everybody. Yeah, he punched that guy into the wall.
Yeah. Fuck. He punched a lot of people and just fucking punched holes in people's, man. Like that was pretty hardcore too. Yeah, you know, not quite as hardcore
on the
as
wall. Danny Rand didn't explode anybody. He did not explode anybody his entire time. He's obviously.
See, now is that a question of Danny pulling his punches, or is that just further proof that Danny just does not know what he's doing?
I don't think Danny knows what he's doing.
I bet Danny likes vanilla ice cream too. I think he seems like a Kyle type to me personally.
Oh fuck! And then you got what's his face banging his lady in the closet at the AA
Ward.
Yeah,
Ward.
He fucking impregnates her, man.
I was just like well, this side plot, like
what is this fucking train wreck? Oh god!
I enjoyed Ward the train wreck though. Again, like I said, like I think Ward is a legitimate. He's one of the better written characters consistently. Even in season 1, he was easily better written than fucking Danny ever was, and I think it's kind of true here too. But it's just like this is a character that has he seems like he's in a different show sometimes, but.
Same thing with his dad. What the fuck is? What is this family? The whole family is picked out of another show and dropped into this one.
And that brings me to Joy. What the fuck was going on there?
I had some problems with her this season.
It's Scott fucking Buck wrote them into a corner, and then it was just like, again, instead of just like, fuck that, like they felt compelled to like explain their way out of it, so they spent the whole season like trying to frame Joy as like this villainous character, and I'm like, none of this makes any sense whatsoever. Like even when they like pulled back on it and like, she kind of feels conflicted about it, I'm like, well, why was she there in the first place? Like, right. I just don't, there was like the motivation was just like, Danny ruined everything in my life. Like, no, he didn't. He didn't ruin anything. It's like, no, I don't think so. I don't know. I just found that whole thing just completely contrived, just dumb. The whole thing with her and Davos, just totally dumb. I don't know.
That's the show.
I thought it was super out of character for the character they built in season 1.
Right.
Well, as like Ward, I enjoyed this season a whole lot.
You know who I really enjoyed in this show? It's someone we haven't actually talked about through the entirety of our discussion on it. Typhoid Mary.
Oh yeah. She was fucking cool.
Yeah,
I enjoyed her
Mary
too.
Walker. I felt like that was a really strong inclusion. Like Alice Eve crushed it. First of all, I thought she was great, kind of with the different personalities.
Super cool.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree. Very cool character and a very cool depiction of the character. I just thought she was like this great kind of villainous presence throughout. I kind of enjoyed the way they slowly unfurled kind of the nature of her character, and yeah, I mean just the shift between the personalities I thought was really, really well done. I would like to see that character integrated into other shows. She's obviously not going to be in Iron Fist season 3 because shit doesn't exist and will not exist, but I think that what they did with that character would work great in a Daredevil type setting. It would work great in a Punisher type setting. Like I would be 100% down to see her play in other shows. Jessica Jones potentially. So yeah, I big shout out to Alice Eve for really, really doing great work there. Definitely, I think the strongest. Well, I guess we didn't really get that many new characters in this show, so it's not really saying anything to say that she was like the best new character, I guess. But I thought she was, in general, one of the strongest characters. Probably behind Colleen and Misty. I thought were for me like this show was more enjoyable as the Daughters of the Dragon kind of spinoff.
No, it was really cool.
That we need.
Oh, yeah.
Was this a show that they went into the bar?
Yeah,
They got in the fight.
Yeah, they got in the bar fight. Yeah, that was yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah,
I liked it.
They're great together. When's that show coming?
I like it when Colleen beat the shit out of Danny with the stick.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was good.
He's like, I've trained for years in Kunlun.
I am the greatest warrior of all time. Oh, God, a stick! Don't hit me with it again!
By Lee Kong the Thunderer. And he's like, oh, by the way, can you give me lessons?
I can't be if I train you, I cannot be with you. God damn it, Colleen.
Okay, yeah, I had a little bit of problem with their
artificial drama.
I'm just like, you really need to break up? Like, I thought things are
Let me
mostly
ask you
fine.
a question, Henry. If you were Colleen, would you be with Danny? No. I wouldn't be fucking Danny. Hey, Danny, I'm going to break up with you. I'll train you. I'll beat the shit out of you with this stick, you worthless piece of shit. Fucking Danny.
He fucking steals Iron Fist and then dump his ass. That's the way to do it right there.
And Danny's so fucking petty. He goes underground and punches that metal wall, that metal fucking door.
Such a Danny move.
Oh,
Fuck you! I'm going into the subway. I'm punching this fucking door.
Stupid metal door. This show's awesome. I take everything I said back. This is awesome.
It's good.
This is just such a dumb show. It's all just really quite dumb, isn't it?
Oh, God.
Oh. But that end though, when Colleen channels her chi through that sword,
that was pretty dope.
That's cool.
That was pretty dope.
Yes.
Those last 10 minutes, I was pretty hyped for. I was like, Colleen's getting iron, like the white glow Iron Fist with her sword, and then Danny and Ward go off to look for Orson Rando, and I was like,
yeah,
wait, really? And then it ends, and I was like, "Oh, motherfucker!" They're not.
Well,
it
didn't end before fucking Danny busts out the double pistol action and uses fucking chi infused.
I'm okay with like, I don't even need an explanation. Just like start off with that. Like, I don't care how you got it. Just show me.
And that's the thing. It's like fucking window with this show.
Presumably, season 3 is kind of tracking some of that, and then what happens afterward. But like. You know, I think about it now and I'm like, instead of just doing 10 episodes of just like, oh God, we got to finish everything that season 1 laid down. Just start with that and just say like, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
See, I would be 100% on board with that.
You could even have like a time jump. Couldn't you have a time jump? Like I've honed my abilities.
That's what that was.
Fist.
Yeah. I mean, that whole ending was just like a, several months later, like, oh God, what the fuck's happened in those months? Like, yeah, that would be interesting. But
we don't need it. We don't need to explain it. Like you said, we don't need to explain it. Let's just fucking do it. But that never happened.
Just
do
it.
Do it. Danny Rand fashion.
What are you waiting for?
Oh. Anyways, if you can't tell, I thoroughly enjoyed Danny Rand. Maybe for all the wrong reasons, and I don't know if I can recommend anybody watch it. But I had a really good fucking time watching it. Really good time. That day, I sat in that couch and watched the entire show, man, and eating ramen noodles.
You were the Iron Fist. You were a better Iron Fist.
No, he wasn't the Iron Fist. He was Danny Rand. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I was Danny. I was homeless looking Danny Rand. That for the first season 1, Danny Rand was
Season
more
1
my
Danny
speed.
Rand.
Yeah. So,
All right.
anyways,
that's I think that's more than enough Danny Rand for anyone listening, and that's more than enough for this episode. So we're gonna go ahead and call it here. Again, we'll be covering Daredevil Season 3 very shortly on our next episode. But until then, we wanted to say thank you for listening. We wanted to say thank you to Henry for joining us. If you enjoyed what you heard, spread the word. We recommend you check out our Patreon to listen to that horror bonus episode that we talked about earlier in the episode. Again, Suspiria, Audition, The Wailing, and It Comes at Night, 4 horror movies from around the globe. Very cool. Definitely worth checking out. Our website is watchreviewrepeat.com. Socials at WRRPod is our Twitter. And you can like us on Facebook at Watch Review Repeat. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please send those to our Gmail account, which is watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. And our next episode, as discussed, is going to be on Daredevil Season 3. So good things in store, right?
Absolutely, man. We're going to drive it home with the next one for sure.
Yeah. And just a little pro tip for everyone listening. As I mentioned, we're recording everything all at once. So by the time that this episode is up on our regular feed, you can support us on Patreon, and you'll already have access to the second part of the episode about Daredevil. So just throwing it out there. If you want to hear the rest of the conversation, you have that option on the table. If not, you're welcome to wait until we release our next episode. And until then, we say...
Ladies on the Minjay.
Ladies on the Minjay.